I think, again, just thinking about things that go along with this, the reality that means that this being student-led and student-initiated is so important.
Yep.
Right? To initiate it for them first and then say, okay, now we give you the keys. No. They need to own it from the very beginning.
Yep.
It creates longevity in ministry. It creates passing it down by sibling, the number of stories that we hear.
Working with the local church to take the hope of Christ to every student in the United States. This is First Priority. Now here are your hosts, Steve Cherico and Brad Skelling.
Hey everybody, welcome to the First Priority Podcast. Glad that you're here and listening to us again today.
What's up, everybody? My name's Steve Cherico, and this is my co-art, Brad Skelling.
It's good to be here.
It is great to be here.
You enjoying the day, Steve?
It's beautiful in Tennessee.
It is very beautiful in Tennessee. I love the most wonderful time of the year.
Exactly, which is now.
This tops Christmas.
Yeah, baseball and softball season. Good job.
Being outside on the back deck season. Come on.
Yeah, I was out back with the fire pit this weekend.
There you
go.
Excellent. Yeah, me too. We bought a fire pit this weekend.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I like that.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Will be a lot of fun.
Sometimes I burn mine a little too tall and the neighbors call the local authorities.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, yeah. You just wait.
No, yeah.
When you first put the kindling on, you get fire going. Mm-hmm. It gets tall and hot.
There you go.
It's great.
I like it. Might have to do that again tonight.
Yeah,
after
I like
soccer
that.
practice. Soccer season. Soccer practice.
It's not soccer season. Nobody plays that
Yes,
game anymore.
U10.
Nobody plays that game anymore.
They're 2-1. George scored 3 goals.
Go George.
Right.
I hope he watches the podcast.
All the time.
Yeah, I figured.
He's actually come across us on YouTube a couple times. He's like, Dad, I saw you.
It's good that both of our sons, well, a couple of our sons, not
One
all
of each
them,
of
a
our
couple of our sons actually
One of
pay
two.
attention.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh, I wouldn't call it paying attention.
Oh, well, as is normal, do you have any announcements for us this week? None.
No.
That's our announcements, is that our boys sort of pay attention.
Yes, it's spring.
All of you.
We're going into summer months.
All of you who love Brad, thank you for putting up with that.
We
Good
are
night.
doing spring meetings.
Ooh,
We're
yeah.
working on a lot of stuff. Working on next year, full force.
Epic?
Epics.
Epic?
In the middle of Epic, getting the content down so we can put it in the spring meetings.
Like it.
Yep. Got more meetings this week for that. Next week and the week after. And the week after.
Meetings for meetings.
Exactly.
Yes.
But it's good stuff and we're super excited about it all.
Well, I got a little story time with Steve. Is that all right?
Yeah, let's do it.
So just been kind of looking through what everybody is talking about across the chapters and across the districts. And one of the things that I noticed was that we are doing a really good job this year honoring our faculty.
Oh.
And it has trickled down into the clubs.
Okay.
So, the normal is for those of us that are involved First Priority, the faculty, it's one of those jobs that they should be paid double what they actually earn, right? Mm-hmm. They do more than teach, especially in this day and age. Those are all things we know, right?
Yep.
But what our chapters are doing and what I see some of our districts are doing is they're making sure that there are gifts to go with that, which is not new game. We do that. And a lot of the faculty are overjoyed and grateful, and are recommitting to next year. But what I have been watching is on the student side, I've been watching these student clubs that I follow on socials that are talking about the gifts that they're giving the teachers themselves. So the student leaders are catching wind of it.
Yep.
And though we show up with a mug with some candy and a thank you card or a gift card with something else, right, which is pretty normal for First Priority, the students are doing like 18 gifts if there's 18 leaders.
Wow.
Every student is committing to bringing a gift to that teacher.
Oh.
And the teacher sponsors are just getting blown away.
That's awesome.
By the students' recognition.
Yeah.
Not just seniors, right? Mm-hmm. Not just wet behind the ear freshmen.
Yep.
Right. But literally the group of leaders that are involved are honoring where honor is due.
That's awesome.
So it's been super neat to watch, obviously in my local area in Nashville, watching some of these clubs do it over GroupMe, but then also seeing on the socials where the kids are all surrounding the teacher and they're taking pictures, and it's just, it's a cool game and makes me very proud of the level of leadership that our coaches, forget about our directors and our paid staff, that the level of leadership that our coaches are leading at is super cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Story time with Steve.
Very nice. Very
All
nice.
right.
Thanks for doing that.
No problem.
Uh-huh. Generosity is always a good thing.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you see it unsolicited and the students just catch on.
I'm a fan.
That's the most fun.
I'm a fan.
That is a lot of fun. Yep.
What we got this week?
Well, we're going to jump into the core values of First Priority. We talk about them.
We haven't done this conversation in a while. 14 months.
Really? Has it been that long?
We've had lots of conversations around them, but we've not gone through these for 14 months. So it's time.
That's what happens when you and I do podcasts. Time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly.
And you just don't realize how much time has flown by.
Exactly. This
We're
is
having so much
episode
fun.
like 699, right?
What?
What episode is this?
I don't know. We're in like season 4.
All right. 150?
Right, exactly.
Is that right?
I can't do 365 by 3.
Come on, man.
52 by. I can do 52 by 3.
All right.
It's 156.
Plus and
Plus
minus.
about 20.
There you go. You
Yeah.
better get ready
About
for episode 200.
172.
You better get on at episode 200. All right.
Be here on episode 200. Will you be here on episode 200?
I'll be here, hopefully. I won't be in the office that day, but I'll be here.
Probably. Goodness.
Core values.
Yeah. So if anybody's been around for more than 3 minutes, hopefully they've heard these before.
Yes, correct.
But they are really the core values, what makes us different, what makes us distinct as a ministry. And none of it's not any one of them alone. It's all 4 of them together.
That's a really good point.
That really distinguishes us, what we value, who we are. Gospel focused, we are student led, we are strategy based, we are local church engaged.
Good. So let's slow down and go through the 4 of those with just a little bit of content.
I did slow down. I said it very eloquently.
I like that.
That's not
Let's
what you
dig
meant.
let's dig in for a minute. So let's
Okay.
talk about being gospel focused. Where does that start?
What does that mean?
Yeah, where does it start?
I don't know. What does it start mean for you?
Well, gospel focused just means that the gospel affects every area of our life, right? The good news is involved in all things of
Yep.
our lives.
Yep.
And so we are focused in that, not as a ministry, but not just on the campus side, but in all
Yeah.
the things that we're involved in.
Correct. And it permeates every week of the cycle. So
good.
whether you're doing Hope or Epic, or if we've moved on to another 4-letter word by now, the gospel is still a part of it. If you're equipping, preparing, inviting, connecting, it's all centered around the gospel. And we really, for me living in the South, getting accustomed to the culture, it's not just, hey, do you go to church?
Yep.
But where are you at with Jesus? Where do you stand with that? Because seeing more and more and whatever, there's less and less gray area where I'm an atheist or I don't believe in this, and there's more freedom to speak. If you really don't believe, you don't call yourself a Christian as quickly anymore.
Correct.
But there's still a group of people that were like, well, yeah, I go to church. I'm good, but we're gospel focused.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And so core values, I think one of the things that we should just pause a minute is core values really talks about the fact that we are very clear on who we are and why we exist.
Yep.
Right. And that's really good for us because the good news permeates, as you said, all parts of life. And so we could be really wide as a ministry,
Yep.
but we're not. We're really focused in on schools and the community
Yes.
that is around those schools.
Yeah.
That's who we are. Who we are in his organization really is. And so anything outside of that can be good.
Yep.
It can be well-intended. It could even be God's call in somebody else's life. But when it comes to ours as leaders inside First Priority, we're completely focused on the school setting and the community around it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, and you bring up Epic earlier. We're working on the Epic stuff. So that's what comes to mind when we're talking about gospel focused. A meeting, when we talk about a meeting, we're really focusing on a couple things.
Okay.
We're focusing in on the community that is at First Priority. So we realize that there's a group of 5 to 500 kids walking into a room
Yep.
that don't go to church together.
Yep.
Whether if you're 5, you could have 5 different churches represented in that room. They not all in the same grade, not all the same, anything, interests, whatever, but they all come in around Jesus. So we do need to take a moment and build some trust. So we have an activity generally in there. We have some scripture where we can dig into the Bible together, talking about the gospel together, building that trust. But then we also have that tool time where it's not just come sit and listen,
Yep.
but it's, hey, let's talk about, I just learned about the love of Jesus in a new way. How does that impact the next time I talk to Steve Cherico and the fact that he needs Jesus, right? How can I share that with you in my thing? And let's role play that a little bit. Let's talk about that a little bit. It's an equip, that is what an equip week is. It's not a Bible study. We study the Bible, but that's not why we're there. We're there for the outflow of the gospel of this, in the mouths of students.
Yeah. What you're saying really is there's lots of theory,
Yep.
right? But what we've done is Equip Week is all about bringing practical and
Very
practicum
practical.
to play, right?
Yep.
And how can you go influence with what you've learned?
Can't be
Not
a
just
lighthouse.
know it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, say what you're going to say.
Can't be a lighthouse without light shining out and coming out, right?
Yeah, I think the last part of the gospel focused is, and you started to talk about this a little bit, is just the fact that we unite the local church.
Yeah.
We unite students on the campus. We unite. Like, I say this in Nashville, so I'll pick on Nashville. There are 4 corners to the campus ministry table in Nashville.
Okay.
There's lots of people that dabble. Okay.
Yep.
But there are 4 integral ministries in Nashville that reach the Middle Tennessee campuses.
Okay.
Right. We can name them very quickly. But I would be amiss if I talked about anything but how great it is to have all of these people at the table.
Yeah.
Because then I wouldn't be a church uniter.
Yeah.
Right. I would be opposite of everything I say. And I don't need the other 3 people at the table to do the same for me. Because that may not be their core value.
Yeah.
It may not be in who they are,
Yep.
right? But it is mine.
Yep.
And so if I'm going to be a church uniter around the idea that we're going to reach every student with the gospel through every means necessary, including first priority clubs,
Yep.
then that's one of the things that makes us unique.
Yep.
We're going to unite the local church around schools to reach students with Christ.
Yep. It's awesome. I love it.
There you go. Gospel focused.
Number 2,
Okay.
student led.
Yep.
I mean, we talked about this already, right? The students are empowered, encouraged, and supported as missionaries in their schools. It's a mission field.
It is.
When we talk about whatever millions of students there are this year in this public middle and high schools, and only 4 to 10% on a good day are Bible-believing Christians.
Yep.
I mean, that's what you hear about people going to Egypt for, growing up and things of that nature. Is when you talk about the 440 window or whatever mission language you want to use, I mean, the public middle and high schools in America fit that category.
They do now.
They do now. And so we are empowering the students as missionaries. The point wasn't the school as a mission field.
Yep.
But that the students are the missionaries. They're there inside that culture. I don't speak TikTok. I don't speak all the different things that are out there.
Thank
right?
God.
Right? We are talking about doing an office TikTok video.
Oh, heaven no. Please
we go
don't.
down there.
Please don't. Let it go.
Yeah, and just putting the gospel in the hands of students, put it in language that they understand, and let them go.
Well, what you're talking about is developing student leaders,
Yeah.
which is a super interesting debate inside youth ministry that will
Okay.
last forever and ever. Amen.
Sure.
Right. What comes with more fruit? Is it more fruitful for me as an adult that can soundly, theoretically, theologically, soundly speak about the truth of Jesus in a short, simple way?
Yep.
Is that more fruitful than me equipping a student through their lenses to be able to go work through that discussion with another student that may not be as simple
Yep.
and may be convoluted,
Yep.
right? But which is more fruitful? And we've just found time and time again that the 15-year-old sharing with the 15-year-old
Yep.
and the 13-year-old sharing with that we always find more fruit there because they can identify with that story.
The best influence on a student is another student.
But that means we have to be focused on student leaders.
Correct.
Not doing student ministry per se.
Well, and if we have to do our own counseling, we have to give up control.
Yeah.
We have to hand them the microphone. And we so well like to have the microphone.
Yeah, correct.
I have
We
a
got something to
microphone
say.
in front of me
Yeah, we
right
got
now.
something to say, and we're the smartest people in the room.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're not going to do it right.
Yep.
But they don't need to do it right. They need to do it in love. And if they do it in love, the gospel will not come back void.
Yeah. And I think, again, just thinking about things that go along with this, the reality that means that this being student-led and student-initiated is so important,
Yep.
right? To initiate it for them first and then say, okay, now we give you the keys. No. They need to own it from the very beginning.
Yep.
It creates longevity in ministry. It creates passing it down by sibling. The number
Yep.
of stories that we hear about. I remember a young man who moved into Williamson County down near where you live in Tennessee, whose sister was a part of Darren Pepper's First Priority Club down in whatever
Yeah.
part of Georgia, Cherokee that he's in, right?
Yep.
And she blew it up there.
Yeah.
It was hers. And so when he got here, he was like, what else would I do? If my sister was allowed to lead it at her school and now we're living here in Nashville, how would I don't get it. Why wouldn't I? And it was new game for that Bible club at that
Nice.
school, which had always been led by faculty,
Yep.
which is wrong.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a beautiful moment to see us do that on purpose.
I love it. That's awesome.
All right. So you got gospel focused, you got student led, the first 2 of the 4 core values. What's the next one?
Strategy based.
This is your world. Go ahead. Strategy based.
Well, I mean, we have a mission and vision. We can get excited about to take the hope of Christ to every student in the United States. It's big picture. You and I have said it for many years that the reason we're still here is because the vision sells.
Yeah.
Right? But if the vision doesn't grow legs and get worked out, it's all it is a vision. How many people in the 70 years of Jerusalem, in the story of Nehemiah, how many people walked past Jerusalem and said, hey, somebody should rebuild that city?
Yeah.
But it wasn't until Nehemiah put a plan together, adjusted his plan when the king said, well, you're going to need this and this and that in order to get there.
Yeah.
And he said, and then went and surveyed the walls. He adjusted his plan twice. He had his plan, king's plan, and then when he got there, the practical plan.
Yeah.
Let's go rebuild these walls. And the strategy is, to take the hope of Christ to every student, uniting the church. We got to stick to our strategy or we won't keep the legs underneath the idea that is first priority.
And let me jump on the tail of that, right?
Sure.
Sometimes when we say strategy, we think we're closed in the four walls.
Yeah.
And the reality is we're actually looking for innovation.
Yeah.
Right? We're looking for people who can look down the road and say, that's our target.
Yep.
This is what's before us.
Yep.
Now, how do we innovatively equip students to go do what they do?
Yep.
Right. So there is this layer of leaders that I think sometimes get really nervous about an organization and not recognizing that, at least for us, our goal is to be an organism.
Yeah.
Right. We know why we exist.
Yep.
We know what we are to do.
Yep.
And the strategy is a tool for us. It's not what drives us.
Well, if you remember from my great words last week on the podcast when we were talking about you don't remember that already. Come on, man.
It's only been a week. Go ahead.
When we were talking about the donor care and communication plan, that the plan establishes the foundation for us to maintain the goal. The goal is relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In a donor thing, we're caring and building. We have a goal to maintain relationship.
Yeah.
But there's still innovation that has to happen in there, right? I've got monthly donors from 15 years who some of them like to go for a meal. Some of them don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
I send them an email and they're good.
Yeah.
And you invite them to lunch and they're like, no, I'm good. And you have to be innovative. We put a plan together that says, hey, here's how you maintain relationship with a donor. I know that's not what we're talking about this week, but you still need to be innovative and know the context of what you're doing. So that the strategy never takes away the need for leadership.
Yeah. And yet failure to plan
Correct.
is planning to fail.
Correct. We have our goals, we have our rhythms, we have our principles that are in that keep us moving in the right direction, right? We don't want to, like Mark Robbins often says, we don't want to try and serve a hamburger at Chick-fil-A, right?
Yep.
You can't throw something in there that's not us.
Yep.
That you can't change the strategy, but we got to be innovative in there as well.
It's good. So we're gospel focused, we're student led, we're strategy based,
Yep.
and we are local church engaged.
Yep. Pro-church.
Well, and when you say pro church, we're talking about a people.
Yep.
Right? We're
Yep.
talking about any denomination, any people group that is authentically Christ following and is biblical in their basis of beliefs.
Yep. Well, and on a theoretical, and it's not even theoretical, but kind of a vision level, the body of Christ is alive and well in every community in America.
Yeah,
we are
correct.
not in the place of a Sodom and Gomorrah.
Nope.
We're not in a place of a remnant. We can't use those words in our country. We are God's people. They're everywhere.
Yep.
So what if we empowered God's people that are already in that community, right? Think about my hometown even. Go back to Sioux Center, Iowa, and there's 5,000 people there. And Dutch Reformed, you'd get laughed out of town. Just for a really, really good example.
Yep, exactly.
Right? You really wouldn't get laughed out of town. They're like, oh yeah, Brad, yeah, I know him. Yeah, you're my friend too. But anyway, I digress to say, just got to know the culture you're walking into.
Yeah.
Every town is a little bit different. That goes back to the strategy, right? You still need to have innovation when you walk into there versus Washington, D.C. Those are two very different.
They are.
And I didn't mean to pick on one of your towns.
No, that's all right. Yeah.
But it's very different cultures, very different environments.
Yeah.
And we take this strategy of being student-led in the school and say, here, this is what it looks like in Sioux Center, Iowa, and the local church. Grab hold of that and let's help students reach students in your school. Same thing in DC, same thing in Michigan, same thing in Florida, right? We want to engage the local church that's already in existence, that's there, that's not a remnant, empower that army,
Yeah.
and give them this tool to go reach the generation in their city.
And you haven't used this language yet, but it's good language. What you just said, whether DC with Mark Batterson's work and all the people that are in that town, Capital Church, all those people, or in where you're talking about, right, in Dutch Reform land, how are we adding value to the local church? And
correct.
You know, it's been often said, I don't know who says it, but it's been often said, right? If the local church didn't need what we do, right, we wouldn't exist. If they already had the burden to unite, if they already had the burden to equip students to be missionaries in the campus, right? If that was already what Mark Roberts woke up every day thinking about, then we wouldn't be able to add value, right? But the reality is they've got their own set of things. And so we bring value to them because it's like, oh yeah, we totally want that. We're totally looking for an army of hope to be raised up. It's not the first thing on our list.
Well, it's not the first thing on their list. It's not a program that's often found in the institutional church. It's not a budget item that's there most commonly. I mean, they support ministries locally, right? Feeding people and everything else that are really good things. But when you talk about local missions, sharing the gospel, that generally heads to another continent, not to a local middle or high school. It's just non-existent. Doesn't happen. So we want to be that tool and that resource and that excuse. Really, we talk about the dichotomy, if you will, between egos and logos, and the fact that First Priority is still a logo. It still is an institution. We are still a 501c3, but we really want to be that Billy Graham excuse for all the churches, multi-denominational people to come together around this cause and say, hey, let's help students reach students in our school, because if we don't reach the students in our backyard, I know nobody else will.
Well, and I'll go a step farther. I just mentioned the Army of Hope. For me, it has always been, from the point that Benny shared this with me in 2004. Right. For me, it has always been, if we raise an Army of Hope here that has more resource than possibly most places on earth, right? If we miss that opportunity, then we miss the opportunity to go reach the world.
That's right.
But flip it on its head. If we raise a group of students that are called to leadership, that are going to take us out of our seats and ask us to go take other seats so they can jump in, right? We're going to raise the water across the globe. And how the gospel is advancing for kingdom purposes. And I say the gospel advancing in a very pro-human being, right? That people are going to go forth and share the good news of Jesus Christ. Not their agenda, not their plans, not their political views. All of that's fine. But this is about the good news of Jesus Christ, the work that he left us to do with his last words.
That's right. It's good.
Gospel-focused, student-led, strategy-based, local church engaged. Any last words?
Good stuff. Well, I mean, I'm sad that it took us 14 months to get back to it. I love the conversation. One of the things that comes to mind is the high tide raises all ships. So if you have a discouraging thought towards your local churches, I would encourage you to help raise the tide in your community. Get this started, help students share the gospel and bring those students back to that church and just raise the tide in your community.
It's good.
Right? Be the change. A little sign in my bathroom that says nobody wants to change the toilet paper. They want to change the world, but just be the change.
I have no idea what that has to do with anything, but good job.
Be the change, my friend. Be the change.
Well, everybody, that's another podcast. We're super glad that you joined us today.
We are. I'm glad that people are listening along. I hope this was value. I hope this brought language to you that can help you articulate First Priority better in your community.
How do they interact with us on the podcast, Brad?
They like the podcast, they subscribe to the podcast, and they share the podcast on their socials to say, hey, this is a good one. Everybody should listen to this.
Great. Thanks, everybody, for doing so. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Till next week. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.